Hello everybody, welcome back to what has been something in the making, the next edition of course, the Compiled podcast. And no, I've not disappeared, I've not gone off into the distance again. I've just been very, very busy the last few terms. Well, over the last term, should I say, because, well, assessments, coursework, exams and stuff, coursework, university degree, that's all really taken my life over at the moment. So the Complied podcast was sort of put on hiatus, but now it's the start of a new term. Christmas is over. I've got some time this week. We're going to start on with the Complied podcast. Hopefully get some sort of, a schedule where I can finally, continue on doing the Complied podcast at least once a week. Of course, uni work's going to start getting back up despite, everything being online at the moment, because of course the UK is now in another national lockdown. So yeah, we can't really do too much. So a bit more time to dedicate towards, coursework and the Complied podcast, hopefully. But it's 2021. It's a new year, new tech. Well, so we hope. So this episode's sort of going to be a minor little catch up, and also tech that I'm looking forward to 2021, and possibly what could be on my own personal shopping list for, tech goodies and other things for this year. So without further ado, as my good old friend Tommy Bowyer would say, let's get into it. No, I'm not nicking his catchphrase. Don't worry, I said that to piss him off. Anyway, but we're going to jump into today's topics of 2021 and what it might hold. Now, at the moment, it's CES 2021. Well, we say CES 2021, it's virtual CES 2021, so there's no official event for CES happening this year, but companies are still going to be making announcements. Intel's got an announcement, Nvidia's got an announcement, Samsung's got an announcement in 2 days' time. So yeah, tech companies are still rolling ahead with the January, the month of January, where they're going to show off all cool sorts of products, make new announcements of product releases. So it's still going ahead despite not having, a massive showroom full of press and media actually getting hands-on with all the new products, which, yeah, that's sort of the whole point of CES, is actually seeing and being able to experience the products, not just, having some guy over a Zoom call tell you the spec list and show you a picture, which isn't as exciting, but at least it shows what we could look forward to in this year. So, let's talk about my personal tech at the moment. I've not made any substantial purchases as of yet in terms of what I've received. We will talk about that later. So what's, the big splurge recently since I did my last Compiled podcast? Well, we had the introduction of the new M1 Max. And let me just say, it's taken the world by storm. The M1 processors, I have to admit, are amazing pieces of technology. Mainly because of the performance you get for such a low power. And now, yes, if you look at some benchmarks, desktop class Ryzen 5 processors can beat the M1 Max in certain use cases, but that's desktop AMD Ryzen. We're talking about very low power, very long battery M1 processors, which, because they're the low power variant, I can't remember just exactly how much. Is it like something like 20 watts? Less than 20 watts? Or is it... Technical difficulties, I do apologise. Yeah, anyway, my laptop has come back to life. Yeah, so, the M1 Mac processors, very low power, very high levels of performance at such a low power usage. Now, people are thinking, oh yeah, M1 MacBook Pros it looks like a good buy. Not only because of the performance, but the battery life you get into it. The new M1 MacBook Pro, 22 hours of battery life. That is just insane and incredible. And it's made me want to buy one. You wouldn't believe this. Matthew Charlton of the PC Master Race, Windows desktop galore. I want a Mac. And now, that is surprising. Also, it's bearing in mind the new M1 processors are of the ARM tech architecture. So, x86 completely different. But, have you seen Rosetta 2? Have you seen that? The x86 emulation on that is amazing. It's the best, x86 emulation I've ever seen. And yes, you may be wondering, why is he so banging on about a Mac? I thought he was a PC guy. Well, I am, and I still will be. Windows is still my bread and butter. It's still the operating system that I'm going to be using for forever. As a computer scientist, it's, all the applications I'm using for my current computer science development is on Windows. But I do quite fancy getting into ARM development also as well. So that's why I'm sort of debating on getting on to it, the M1 MacBook Pro, so I can do some ARM development as well, because that's potentially going to be the future. And as a computer scientist, I want to be on the future. I want to be prepared for the future, as well as, still sticking to x86, the Windows platform. It's the most popular platform to develop for, but, being able to also, develop apps and applications and code in native ARM language as well. That also is going to be very powerful in the future as well. Not only that, the prospects of, a thin light laptop with such high, performance and battery life. Before the M1 MacBook Pro, I was thinking, I was thinking of buying, a Dell XPS 13 as a new thin light, because at the moment I'm rocking, last year's, I really want the new Dell XPS 15. I'm rocking last year's Dell XPS 15, which still, 10th gen i7 processor, 32 gigs of RAM, 1650 graphics card. It does well for what it is, but, the new XPS 15 with the edge-to-edge display and this new speaker system, that I do want that, but, I'm fine with last year's Dell XPS 15. But I was considering an XPS 13 as a thin and light laptop, especially the new one, because, that edge-to-edge display is gorgeous. And I prefer, the look of, the XPS 13, especially in the white carbon fiber. That does look good. But then I realised the XPS 13 is rated for like 8 to 10 hours of battery life, which, to be fair, I'd probably be fine with, especially at the moment with lockdown and everything, so we can't really go outside too much. But when you see Apple's doing it for, surprisingly, a cheaper price for more performance, don't forget, Intel's still running 14 nanometer plus, 22 hours of battery life. That's insane. That is what you want for a thin and light, a thin portable device that's powerful, that lasts forever. So I was going to buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and if it wasn't for this news, I would have gone out and bought one this week. Well, ordered one, because at the moment the Apple store's closed where I am, so I was hoping to be able to just walk into town, go to the Apple store in the city centre. It's about a 10-minute walk away from me. Go in and pick up my laptop and just walk out. But, with the recent lockdown restrictions, Apple stores have closed down for click and collect. Well, most have. Some are still open for click and collect orders. But the one where I am in my city has completely shut. And if I wanted to order one, it's going to take... It's when I did the quote on the Apple website, it said it was going to arrive around the 30th of January. That's 18 days. Places like PC World, they had them in stock immediately, but that was for the 8GB variants. And now, if I'm buying a laptop with the word Pro in the name, and that I can't upgrade, I'm not going to buy the one with 8 gigs of RAM. There's nothing professional about 8 gigabytes of RAM. My phone almost has that much RAM. there's nothing professional about 8 gigs of RAM. So don't try and sell me a pro system with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I need at least 16 gigs of RAM, especially because I do a lot of Photoshop work. I'm video editing on the go, mainly Photoshop and video editing. They're the two things, and some like gaming, perhaps, but mainly productivity software, mainly the Adobe package. Mind you, I am starting to move away from Adobe Premiere for video editing. I am at the moment. I've been using DaVinci Resolve 16 Studio, which I've really been getting on with quite well, and I found it's a lot more stable. I'm having a lot less crashes than I did with Adobe Premiere, so that's probably why I'm still on the productivity bandwagon. DaVinci Resolve at the moment. I've really been enjoying my time using that software, and at the moment I'm actually preferring it to Adobe Premiere. But that wasn't the only reason why I didn't run out and buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro this week. It's because we're going to discuss the leaked news. Now, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the design itself hasn't changed despite the internals changing quite dramatically. The design's still the same. And that's got me thinking, compared to the likes of the Dell XPS 15, them bezels are thick, boy. Yeah, the design's dated compared to modern standards. And then I saw recent leaked Apple rumors, which from a source that usually is quite accurate, that they're finally going to do what they did to the bigger MacBook Pro model, where in 2019 we saw the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which was basically a very similar design to the 15-inch MacBook Pro, but they finally extended the screen, so thinner bezels and just a nice overall refreshed, refined design. Now Apple is meant to be doing that with the 13-inch MacBook Pro in form of the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is going to be a bit of a redesign, not like a major rehaul of the design, because, well, quite frankly, the design of it's quite good already. It's just sorting out that screen, making it feel more, have less bezel, feel more edge to edge. So we're meant to be getting a redesign of the 14-inch MacBook Pro coming in June or July, which has got me thinking, if I buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro, if I spend $1,500 on a laptop, I don't want to, in a few months' time, be regretting my purchase decision. Where the latest, M1 MacBook Pros with the latest displays and everything, because in the new MacBook, the 14-inch MacBook Pro, as we're meant to be getting later this year, it's meant to be switching from the IPS display that's in the current MacBook Pro. It's quite good. Don't get me wrong. It's a good display. But, in terms of peak brightness, the color range, it's still got a bit to go. I think of the sRGB range, it was something like 87%, whereas, screens such as on the Dell XPS 13 had a much wider, sRGB range and also slightly higher peak brightness. So, they got a bit of an upgrade to do on the MacBook Pro's display for it. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad display. By no means is it bad, but could be better, especially as this is Apple we're talking about. And they are apparently meant to be introducing, in the 14-inch MacBook Pro, a micro LED displays, which is meant to be the next, evolution in LED display technology, where, there's a whole range of individually lit pixels instead of, backlight. LED backlight, then diffuser, and all that good stuff. So it's meant to, in theory, provide a wider color range, potentially better colors, potentially a higher peak brightness. I think. Don't quote me on this. Is the MacBook Pro 450 nits or 500 nits? I can't remember this off my head. But it's one of them. And also, micro LED is meant to be lower in power consumption as well. Though, apparently, I don't know about in the MacBook Pro, but in the not micro LED, mini LED. Oh my god, I can't believe I made that boo boo. Mini LED is meant to rumoured in the iPad Pro. They're apparently bringing out an iPad Pro refresh as well with mini LED displays. Apparently it's going to be a little thicker. I don't mind that if it's a little bit thicker, if it's meant to be more power efficient as well. So a little bit more thickness, better battery life. I'm not complaining. I don't, we went through a whole era of devices, getting thinner, but I still want something to be able to hold on, and I don't mind that if it means we get better battery life as well. So there's also that to consider. And now, it's a bit weird with my, tech purchases, because I'm on about wanting to get a MacBook Pro. What phone do I use? I use a Samsung Note 20 Ultra, not part of the Apple ecosystem. What smartwatch do I use? I use an Apple Watch Series 6. I have no brand loyalty. I bought last year, and then the new iPad Pro from last year, the 2020 iPad Pro. I used that. Before I switched back to Samsung, I was using an iPhone XX Max. So I don't really have brand loyalty. I like to experience all the ecosystems. I don't like to lock myself in one box. I like to experience it all, and actually, play around with tech. Don't limit myself to one ecosystem. I like to experience it all, because if you lock yourself in one box, you're very limited in options. Whereas I like to play around. I like to experience the best. I don't care what company. I have no brand loyalty. I just like to experience the best and what's different. And, I couldn't stick to an iPhone for like 2 years. More than 2 years. I like to change things up, mix and match. At the moment, I've gone back to Android after 2 years of iPhone ownership. Don't get me wrong, I still have my iPhone enabled to connect to my Apple Watch. Just, for the activation purposes, I have a cellular plan for my Apple Watch. So in terms of activation and updates, that's the only time I actually use my iPhone now. Because I can use my Apple Watch as a standalone device, despite having an Android phone. Because, I got 4G on it. I can receive phone calls and texts without needing a phone in the first place, because I've got my cellular plan already connected to it. But that's my proposition for a MacBook Pro. I will, by the end of the year, I will finally be a Mac user, though I'm not fully switching and converting from Windows to Mac, because, from a gaming perspective, more so a profession perspective as well, I still need Windows dramatically and x86 for the foreseeable future, even though emulation's quite good. But, in terms of my field at the moment, in terms of what we're programming on at the moment, is still very much Windows workspaces, and also quite and also another thing for switching to Mac. I do quite a lot of Linux development as well, in my computer science field. So, Mac OS is based off Unix, closer to Linux. Yeah, we could sort of see that. Also, Mac OS development as well is quite handy, especially when we're jumping over to ARM, which at the moment Intel's still sticking to x86. Mind you, Intel's still sticking to 40 nanometer. So who knows when they're going to finally make the jump. Even though I will give them credit, they are starting to make the jump to 10 nanometer in low power Tiger Lake processors in laptops, though we've only at the moment got, Celeron and Pentium processors. So, yeah, Intel, sort your shit out. Even AMD's on 7 nanometer, and Apple is on 5 nanometer. Intel, what are you doing? Sort your shit out. Mind you, I can have a go at Intel all I want, but I decided to be an idiot and bought a 10900K last year when I should have waited for 5900X. See, buyer's remorse. I wanted to upgrade in May. I did upgrade in May. If knowing what I know now, I would have waited and got a new Ryzen 9 5900X because, it's got better IPC performance. But, it is what it is. It's still a brilliant gaming chip. 10 cores, 20 threads, 5.3 gigahertz. It's still good. But after my rant about Macs and stuff, we're going to jump over back to my, actual bread and butter, which is PC. Now, as everybody knows, I'm a massive PC buff. I have, my Dell XPS 15 as my mobile little workstation type thing laptop. It's nothing exciting or to shout about. But the thing is, I am a massive desktop which I use for mainly gaming and also the majority of my work. Well, it is my workstation. It's my gaming rig. It's a powerhouse. We got 64 gigs of RAM. We got 20 threads. We got a 2080 Ti at the moment, which, given in terms of game performance, it's about the same as a 3070, but it's still a very good gaming card. Which sort of brings me into what I want to talk about on my bucket list for 2021. As you know, the 30 series came out. It was very hard to find. It's very hard to find. You cannot buy a 3080 or 3070 from retailers at the moment. But what has trickled back down into availability from some retailers, though very, very slim quantities, very limited time frames to buy them, what has trickled back in is 3090s. And now I said, I wouldn't buy one until, the stock issues resolved, but I was able to get one at retail. I was able to get one at retail yesterday. So I am now an owner of a NVIDIA 3090. It's not shipped yet, but I bought a 3090 and yeah. I'm actually really excited to actually get it. Do I need it? Do I need a card of 24 gigabytes of VRAM? Probably not. Which I'm gonna get some more buyer's remorse when the video is going to announce what is heavily rumored as the 3080 Ti, which is meant to be the same core as the 3090 with just less VRAM, probably like 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I would imagine, or 20 gigabytes of VRAM. It's not entirely clear yet, but a 3080 Ti is coming. That is basically a stripped down version of the 3090, and I'm probably going to regret that because I don't need 24 gigabytes of VRAM, but that core for gaming performance and also other productivity is going to be very, very, very good. But yeah, I decided to bite the bullet. As someone who really likes PC technology and it is my field, it is my bread and butter, I like to have the latest. Now, top of the end graphics card. Now, don't get me wrong, I bought my 2080 Ti only last year, in May. I paid the same, though, surprisingly, I paid the same amount for my 2080 Ti when there was no stock issues as I did for my 3080. Don't get me wrong, I have an EVGA 2080 Ti for the Win 3 edition. I bought my 2080 Ti, my 3090, for the same price. It's not an EVGA one. I did buy a Founders Edition. I was very lucky to be able to buy it for the price I did. I wasn't prepared to buy, crazy scalper prices. They were listed on StockX for like £1,800. I was not prepared, nor would I ever pay that much for a graphics card, especially when MSRP is £1,400. Given at the moment from retailers, cards are a bit above MSRP. I paid £100 over MSRP for a Founders Edition. Do I regret it? No, because the alternative was to not buy one at all, or to pay a scalper crazy money in order to get one. So I've settled for £100 over MSRP. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but the fact I'm getting the 3090 now has made me super happy. I need to make sure my power supply can actually handle it. Also, another thing with the Founders Edition is this stupid 12-pin and in the UK from retailers, there's no one doing like braided 12-pin adapters. So I wouldn't mind being able to get a 12-pin extension and just be able to tuck it in behind the power supply shroud and tidy it up that way. But there is no extension cables for 12 pins. Why? Why don't they do that? I don't know. But the fact I'm getting a 3090 now has made me quite happy. Sort of my end of year treat, my Christmas treat. Usually I would buy myself something to celebrate Christmas, because usually I don't really buy myself much at Christmas time. I tend to buy more for people. I buy presents for people. I like to buy presents for people. I don't really think about treating myself at Christmas time. Though after Christmas time, I think, right, as a one-time gift idea to myself, I'm going to buy something. So a 3090 is my present to myself. So yeah, 3090 is my start of year transition to Ampere architecture, even though I've only just come from a 2080 Ti. It's exciting. It's exciting not only for productivity applications, but also gaming. Cyberpunk, you're going to see a massive performance increase. I'm going to be able to play you in hopefully buttery smooth FPS, which I've not been able to do with my 2080 Ti. I've been getting around 40 FPS on high settings. What the fuck? I don't know if I'm going to be able to take advantage of a 3090 at the moment. My monitor of choice at the moment, the monitor I'm using, is also quite high in power. Don't get me wrong. I'm using the 38-inch LG ultra wide, the ultra gear one. It's 144 hertz. Well, you can overclock it to 185 hertz, I believe. But it's HDR10 monitor, nano IPS display. It's a very good monitor. It's a 1 millisecond IPS display. It is amazing. The colors are amazing on it, and the high refresh rate's amazing. Though you do pay for it. I was able to get it in the sale. That monitor was £1,300. Non-sale price is about 1,800. So I was quite lucky to get it for the price I did. So that's my gaming setup sorted. While I'm away at university, that's what's with me. Usually I'd have professional speakers as well, but at the moment I've just got some Logitech gaming speakers. So yeah, that's the tech I'm looking forward to in 2021. There is meant to be announcements coming soon. In fact, 5 p.m. today. NVIDIA has their CES 2021 virtual keynote. Yeah, so NVIDIA's 2021 keynote is meant to be happening at 5 o'clock today. So they're rumored to be introducing mobile 30 series GPUs, and then potentially a 3080 Ti. Though at the moment it's gonna feel very strange for them to come out. Hey, we're NVIDIA. We've got a new graphics card that you can't buy. Or like all of our graphics cards. Apparently a 3060 is meant to be coming out as well. So the NVIDIA Ampere lineup, what we got? 3060, 3060 Ti, 3070, 3080, 3080 Ti, 3090. None of which you can buy. So we're going to announce it anyway, even though we're going to produce so many, then we're going to run out of stock because demand's too high and we can't meet demand. So that's what's going to happen. NVIDIA's going to announce a new card. Hey, check this out. It's cool, innit? Shame you can't buy it though. Sucks to be you, normal consumers who don't want to spend £1,500 on a graphics card. If you want to spend £800 on a graphics card, well, joke's on you because we've run out. Though, I'd say run out. Demand is very, very high at the moment. It's the highest on record. You've seen the likes of, the PlayStation 5. That's sold out. You can't buy that anywhere. Though despite you not being able to buy it, that they've sold a record amount of consoles. So much more than the PS4. And, at launch, the PS4 was hard to get, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near this hard. And they sold so many more units. So they've produced millions and millions of units. But because of the demand, it's crazy just how quickly it's been snapped up. The demand is hellish for, consoles, graphics cards, Ryzen 9s, the Ryzen 5s and 7s, the new 5 series, they're in stock at the moment. Ryzen 9s you cannot get because, it's an amazing processor. IPC performance beats Intel, more cores. What's not to like about the new Ryzen 5000 series? You know, PCI 4.0. What's not to like? If I was to build a new computer now, I would go Ryzen. I still regret, buying a 1000K if I knew what was around the corner. But at the time, if I had to choose between for raw gaming performance and IPC performance, at the time of Ryzen 3000 and Intel 10900K, the 10900K was the better processor for me at the time. In terms of what I was doing, in terms of IPC performance. Though in terms of multi-thread performance, the Ryzen 9 would have gone ahead because of the higher core count. But for what I was doing, I didn't need the higher core count. For what I was doing, IPC performance was more crucial for me. So that's what I went with. If I knew if I wanted to wait till December time, I would go for Ryzen 5000 now because it is the better processor. And if I was to upgrade my processor now, which I'm not, it's pointless. In terms of the upgrade, I would see over 10900K. It's not going to be worth the price just yet. Maybe in another years or two time, I will upgrade my processor again. I like to have sort of the top of the end in terms of consumer. I'm not going to go crazy and buy, whatever the new Extreme Edition CPUs may be from Intel or, Threadripper. I'm not going to go that insane in terms of CPU performance. I like to have the top of the end of the consumer, potentially prosumer range, though we're not going to go crazy Extreme Editions or Threadrippers. So that is sort of tech to look forward to in 2021. Hang on, let me just finish the last topic we're on the video, on their keynote today of 30 series mobile. Now, with the 30 series, we think because they've had a process shrink, that means, in theory, when we shrink the process node, we can reduce power consumption. Which is true. We can reduce power consumption by switching to a smaller process node if we kept, the package size the same. But, on the high-end desktop, NVIDIA seen this as a reason and for good reason too on the high end. As we've got more headroom in terms of on the CPU package, and not the CPU package, the GPU package, as, the transistors are using less power, we can put more in. We're going to put more transistors on, and because of that heat, and because of the heat, we're going to try and up the power limits as well. When we design better coolers, better thermal interfaces, we on the desktop can crank the power up more. We can get more power, more performance per watt out of it. And as it's a desktop card, power's not really an issue. So that's why we're seeing crazy performance leaps. Whereas with the 30 series mobile, we're not going to be seeing that. We're not seeing that at all. In fact, it's rumoured that performance on the mobile CPUs are meant to be considerably worse. Don't get me wrong. On laptops, GPUs, they use about it's a 20 watt, 80 watt GPU. The full desktop cards use 300 watts. So you can see why the news is not surprising. Because you're dealing with laptops that, heat, power consumption, it's all, a big issue. Don't get me wrong, laptops usually, gaming laptops, like the power adapters, it's very unlikely that you see a power adapter more than 300 watts. Usually less than that on most gaming laptops. And that's for the GPU, CPU and everything, the screen. And so, power consumption is a major issue. And it's possible the highest end 30 series mobile graphics card is going to be at the same performance as a 2080 Ti, which, don't get me wrong, 2080 Ti performance in a laptop is fantastic. And, you're going to have a good game experience, especially on a smaller screen with 1080p display. You're going to have a good game experience. There's no reason why you need to worry about that entirely. If you really want, 3090 performance, you're gonna have to buy an external GPU enclosure. But it's understandable. I wish we can have 3080 and 3090 levels performance in laptops, but that thermal package, that power package, is just not possible in laptops. Like, the cooling solution they're going to need if they were going to put a 350 watt GPU in a laptop is just insane. It's like, for now, it's just not possible in able to get that level of performance that we've seen on the high end GPUs in laptops. But 2080 Ti level performance, that's still impressive. Don't get me wrong, that's still impressive. And if you want a mobile gaming experience, that's going to be good, especially on a laptop, in a 15-inch laptop. You don't really want more than 1080p or 1440p displays. So it's not going to be huge leaps in performance that we would have liked to see, but at the same time, it's still a gradual performance increase that's still going to mean for a very good mobile game experience, especially on the resolutions of most laptops. You're not going to really have an issue, and yeah, it would be nice to see, but at the end of the day, it's understandable with the thermal package and limitations that we have in modern laptops. Anyway, I think that's enough said for tech and stuff I'm looking forward to in 2021. We will resume on the next episode of the Compiled podcast. We will try and resume the regular scheduled news content. There's more discussion of stuff I'm looking forward to and stuff that could be coming out of the year. We're going to go back to and discussing recent news topics. And yeah, we're going to keep up to date in everything tech and gaming related in the next episode of the Compiled podcast. Anyway, I've been Matthew from MLC Tech. I hope you enjoyed today's return of the Compiled podcast, and I will catch you in the next one. So, until next time, most likely the weekend or next week, I will see you soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you once again. Thank you for listening. Matthew out.